of business will be roll call. We'll start down with Mr. Foley,
David Foley here.
Vance Garwood. Gary Israel.
Eric Peterson.
Marla Canfield.
Thank you. Item number 3 are the minutes. Minutes from the January 17th, 2023 meeting. If there's any discussion, we'll carve out space now. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to approve them as written.
I, Vance Garwood, make a motion to approve the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning and Appeals minutes from January 17th, 2023.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Marla. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
One
Motion
abstain.
carried. Oh, one abstain from Gary, and welcome back, by the way. Glad to have you back. Motion carried. Item 4, start out with 4.1, the committee and staff report. And Les, you're the lone wolf tonight, so it's all you.
I really got no news tonight. Activities are back to normal after the holidays, and we expect another good year.
Good. Supply chain seemed to be breaking loose, keeping up, whatever the right word is, in
Well,
terms of development and housing.
Everything I hear is that lumber prices have dropped significantly in the last year and are expected to drop another 20 to 30% over the next 12 months. The demand is still high for new housing. All of the trades, equipment, and materials are still high, but they've moderated. Concrete and steel prices have moderated, but now the interest rates have come
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah.
it's always that balancing act.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. Anything on the potential residential report, Les?
Now we're just a month into the annual on that, and typically about now is when the permits start to come in and we start to get a feel for what the next year will bring.
Any questions for Les about either of those? If not, we will roll on. Let's see, we don't need to recess for that. So we'll go to agenda item 5.1, which is a special use permit at 513 West Allison. So I now call agenda item 5.1, which is a public hearing on case number Z-SU23-0001. It is important that you present any facts or views you have as evidence so that an informed recommendation can be made by the Planning Commission to the governing body for their final decision. By state statute, the governing body does not have to hold another public hearing on the matter, although they may listen to whomever they wish. You will be asked if there is any new information which was not heard at this hearing. It is to everyone's advantage if you present all the necessary information at this hearing. After the city's zoning administrator provides the commission with background information, I will call upon the applicant. Public comments will be heard following the applicant. After all speakers have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for final comments. The Planning Commission will close the hearing to public comments and will then consider the 14 factors on which to base a recommendation. During this time, the commission may direct questions to the applicant, the public, and/or city staff. You should be aware that the Planning Commission can recommend that the site be platted or replatted if necessary, and that a site plan may be required for approval. You should be aware that any uses permitted outright in a district by the regulations can receive a zoning permit. Furthermore, if the applicant chooses to describe various features of their development plans, the city can only enforce those provisions which are covered in zoning and other city codes. Anyone wishing to speak must be recognized by the chairperson and give their name and address. Please use the podium and speak clearly so that your comments can be recorded for inclusion into our minutes. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'll ask the commission members if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they or a relative own property in the area of notification or have conflicts of interest.
No.
Move on to notification. Official notice for this hearing was published on the City of Andover municipal website on January 28, 2023, and notices were mailed to the applicant and 19 real property owners of record in the area of notification on January 30th, 2023. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Although we do not encourage such communications, I will ask the commission if any of them have received any ex parte verbal or written communications prior to this hearing which they would like to share.
No.
No.
I will now call on the city zoning administrator to provide us with a report on this case.
Mr. Chairman, Planning Commission, this is the first case of this nature since we added the short-term rental category to the Uniform Development Manual back in 2018, 2019. This is the typical VRBO Airbnb type of application where properties can be rented on a short term, not necessarily the monthly or even annual leases, but more on a day-to-day or week-by-week basis. We added this in expectation of some input from local neighbors when a case like this comes up because of increased activity and unknown people in and out of houses within the neighborhood. So we added this just to add this step for public input and to have a record of those homes that this is allowed.
Les, if this, just assume for a second, if this was allowed, how long does the allowance last for?
1 year.
1 year? Okay,
The,
I didn't see that. Sorry.
the special use
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to ask.
lasts
Yes.
forever.
Oh, I thought it said
I
something
thought
about
it
a
said
year.
1 year too.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
a
not-
yes vote is a forever vote.
Yes, it's not an annual type affair.
And can that be revoked? So that it can no longer be an Airbnb or have a special use?
Not without another public hearing.
Okay.
This is the first time this has come up in my year and a half.
Me
First
as well.
time it's
On planning
ever
This
come
is
up.
the first
First
time
ever
ever.
for the whole
Yeah.
city even.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't catch that part. Okay.
So short-term rental, I know we'll bring the applicant up, but I just have a question for you, Les. Short-term rental could mean day-to-day, i.e. almost like a hotel, or it could mean a month stay.
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't there a limitation that it's 30 days maximum? I can't remember where I
let me-
read that, but
Yeah,
Let's
it's
see
on
if I-
12.
Get to
Says
the
no more than,
UDM definition.
12 of the
30.
questions, you mean?
yeah, 12 of
Yeah.
the questions. It's documented there.
no more than 30 consecutive days per renter on item number 12.
Ah, okay. Unless I completely, obviously believe you more than me, but the reason I asked that question was I swore when I read it, I saw something about 1 year.
So did I.
I did
No, it's at the
too.
bottom of page 1. I probably am just misunderstanding it.
Yeah, I must.
I'm sure it's me.
What
Says-
page?
Well, it's the cover page, really. I meant the front page. It just talks about the special use only after, let's see here.
Yeah,
If
the second
granted.
paragraph, if
Right.
granted, the special use is valid
For
for a
1
period
year.
of 1 year from the publication date of its effectuating ordinance,
I'm trying to get to. the-
unless one of the conditions applies per section 12.101 C1.
You see it less under legal implications on the cover page?
It'd be that bottom paragraph on the very front page.
I was looking in the definitions.
Got it, Dave? Yeah. That was one of my questions too. It would seem like it'd be pretty inconvenient for the applicants to apply for this and have to reapply every year. So
Right.
that was clarification I wanted to ask too.
Let's see.
And in just a second to the applicant, we'll have you come up. I think this might be important for us to understand, so we'll give Les a second. Unless if you want longer, just tell me. We can go to.
No, I just wanted to get
Okay.
to the special use section
It's
where.
okay. I didn't want to rush you.
Yeah, that 1 year is kind of the time to proof their application. If they apply for a zoning permit within that 1 year, then the ordinance is effective forever.
Okay.
So it's
Well,
like.
yeah,
they
walk
have-
me
they
through
have-
that. I'm sorry.
They have 1 year to apply for a zoning permit.
After we grant a
After
special
you grant
use.
the special use, the ordinance is published and so forth.
Mhm.
Okay.
Otherwise, they would have to come back for a new special use. It's
If the
it's
year
kind of like
expired,
the,
yeah.
it's kind of like the variances and conditional uses
Mhm.
that have that 180-day
Mhm.
timeframe in which a person has to apply for a permit and get an approved permit, or they go through the process again.
Again. Okay. All right. Thanks. I appreciate you going through that detail for us, Les. So I'll now call upon the applicant to make his or her presentation on the request and any response to what Les has said. Yeah, go ahead and come to the podium, please. That's okay. No, the stand one behind you. I'm sorry. And hopefully the microphone's on, and if it is, just state your name and address.
Hi, Christina Stanton. Address is 517 West Allison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please
And,
tell us the story.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised to hear that this is the first case because when I look at the Airbnb side, I saw that at least 3 in this area was doing it. Maybe they're doing it illegally. I don't know.
I know of one also. I
Yeah.
heard about from somebody.
Yeah, I have
And-
like 2 neighbors doing it.
Really? I
Yeah.
think it's going on.
We look at those sites from time to time and
Yeah.
we always hear they're out there, but we don't see them when we go to the VRBO or the Airbnb site.
I think it happens in every city, I'm sure. I'm not saying they should be doing it,
Yeah.
Right.
but I appreciate you going through the proper
Yeah,
channels to
I
get
know.
it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway, keep going. Tell us your plans.
Okay, so it's a duplex. So one of them is a long-term rental, and so I am thinking about for the other side, try out the short-term rental because I know there are not very many short-term rentals here in Andover, and I think it will, generate some traffic and also stimulate the economy for the city. That's my understanding. And so for the Airbnb side, I'm going to try it for a year, and that's my plan for right now. Yeah.
And you don't live in the long-term rental side, correct?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have any luck, Gary?
I'm looking.
Gary's trying to look them all up in Andover right now.
Yeah.
How many you got?
This one just
Uh,
off Andover
Oh,
Street.
Augusta, Home in Andover.
was gonna say, I think there's one in my
So
neighborhood.
let's see.
I rock the boat, I guess.
No, that's.
Oh, no, no, no.
No. Yeah, no, please.
Entire
Absolutely.
Is your
home
goal to have
hosted
them
by
park in
Brooke.
the driveway
Uh-huh.
of the residence?
Yeah,
Okay. I just see in
yeah,
our
because,
photos, there's some cars on the street and I just thought if there's, it could get congested
oh,
if they're parking out on the street or something.
That one?
the driveway is actually quite
That's the only one
long.
I
saw.
And
Okay.
there's,
Doesn't say where it
one side can
is.
park at least 3.
Oh, okay.
And then for 513, 517 can park 3 cars. And then
Riverfront
513 can park probably 4 or
Yeah.
5 cars.
Okay,
I
thank
drove-
you.
Drove by and looked at it, and I vouch for that. A very big driveway.
Yeah.
Are the two sides, do they, I mean, I know it's L-shaped. right?
Yeah,
Do they
uh-huh.
kind of mirror each other? The- I'm just curious what the inside is like. A
The
couple
inside-
bedrooms, couple bathrooms, kind of a thing?
Yeah, it's legally 3-bedroom. The basement, both my tenants, they use the basement as a bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2 bedrooms
Over
upstairs.
by the
Okay.
turnpike.
So what is the long-term rental leased now currently?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And nothing, nobody's in the other side currently, right?
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're doing some market
That's
research.
right, Gary.
Sorry about that.
Gary's gonna hunt them down on his
He
way
is hunting
home.
them down. Well, there's at least one
Yeah,
Uh,
there's one that's
that's
showing
available
up.
during the dates. Yeah.
If you type in, you put the day farther away, like if you type in June, I think a lot will pop up.
Okay,
Yeah, I suppose.
hey, we'll try
More
that.
available.
Let's do a week. Oh, home in Andover, cottage in Andover, private room in Andover.
Three?
Well, yeah, there's 3.
And I would assume the sites he's looking at are where you would have yours at.
Mhm.
You'd market yours
Oh.
on the same kind of VRBO sites.
Probably, yeah, because they advertise at several different sites.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Well, any other questions?
Well, like Lance said, I appreciate you
Yes.
coming in and doing that. You know,
Thank you. Unless there's anything more you wanted to say that we cut you off from, but we appreciate it.
No,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this case? All right, seeing none. Have any written communications been received?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. I think that the applicant made all of her comments, and we appreciate that. So hearing no further public comments, I will hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions to clarify information. The Planning Commission will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which the commission must consider in order to make findings and ultimately a recommendation. Somebody want to read those for us?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Staff items. The adequate sewage, disposal, and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff. The subject property is served with public streets, water, and sewer. 2, if the special use request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed rights-of-way, easements, building setback lines, or access control? Staff. No, the subject property is platted and no additional rights-of-way, easements, building setback lines, or access control is needed. 3, if the special use request was approved, would the subject property need a screening plan for existing or potential uses? Staff. No, screening and buffering would not be required as a part of the special use application. 4, what fact-based information in support of or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff. None at this time. 5, if there has been an error in the application of these zoning regulations to the subject property, Would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff, no errors are known to exist. 6, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current use? Staff, the subject property is suitable for its current zoning.
Concur.
Concur.
7, is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or undeveloped under its current zoning a factor in the special use request? Staff, no.
Concur.
Concur.
8, how reasonably well suited will the requested special use of the subject property be with the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff, the proposed use could be compatible with surrounding uses. The allowance of a short-term rental use would likely result in a more transient environment as the property will be partially utilized for temporary occupancy.
Concur.
Concur.
9, the special use, has the special use been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature and significance of these conditions? Staff, no.
Concur.
Concur.
What are the current land uses, character, and condition of the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? Staff, the surrounding land uses are primarily residential homes in a neighborhood comprised of single-family detached dwellings.
Concur.
Concur.
11, would the proposed special use of the property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties? And if so, how? Staff, the proposed short-term rental use would likely result in a more transient environment as the property will be partially utilized for temporary occupancy. The property owner and temporary inhabitants will be subject to city codes and ordinances.
Concur.
14, how would the requested special use conform with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans and policies? Staff, the current comprehensive plan does not specifically address short-term rentals. The Unified Development Manual allows for short-term rentals as a special use for no more than 30 consecutive days per renter.
Concur.
Concur.
13, do any professional persons knowledgeable in conditions that affect this special use request have information or recommendations to provide, which would be helpful in its evaluation? Staff, the applicant has indicated their intent is to use one unit in the duplex as a short-term rental and may convert the other unit to a short-term rental in the near future. The special use permit allows for the short-term rental use on the entire property.
Concur.
Concur.
14, how would the potential loss in the value or hardship imposed on the applicant compare to the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare, if there is such a change from the current use to the requested use? Staff, the applicant desires to maximize the use of the property by providing a short-term rental option for transient guests. The property owner and temporary inhabitants will be subject to city codes and ordinances.
Concur.
Concur. Thanks for reading that. So having discussed and reached conclusions on our findings of fact, I would remind the commission that a proper motion should reflect the factors on which it is based, and if approval is recommended, then consideration should be given to any conditions that might be attached. Is there a motion to either recommend approval, modification and approval, disapproval, or to table the discussion?
Mr. Chairperson, since I have a question, since I was looking up other
Mhm.
Airbnbs, the applicant said that she was going to try this for a year, correct? Can we put that as a limitation in the
Yes.
approval? And should we also specify that no renter should be in the property more than 30 consecutive days, even though
It's already defined as such.
okay.
No issues, except I have a question. What happens at the end of a year? Is it if the applicant, what happens then? If that's a part of our motion?
Personally, I don't want to speak for the applicant, but I would assume that if it's not working as a short-term rental, they'll return it to a long-term rental. I would, probably in less than 12 months. But I don't want to speak for the applicant. I'd hate for her to have to come back in a year and go through this whole same process again. But that's just my thought. I don't know.
Well, then that brings up a question. If she tries it for, let's say, 6 months and it's not working out, and yet there's no limitation to how long it has that special use, she turns it back into long-term rental, and a renter's in there for a year and they leave, and now she wants to turn it into short-term rental again. She doesn't have to come before us. She can go ahead and just do that again, correct?
The underlying zoning remains. So the single-family uses would be permitted with or without the special use.
Okay.
And the special use sticks with it.
Special use sticks with it. So she could do pretty much whatever she wanted to have renters in the property, whether they're short-term or long-term.
Agreeable.
And it goes for both sides. of
Both
the
sides.
duplex.
Yep, correct. Did you have a motion out of that thing, Gary?
I'm trying to figure out what numbers we would stick in there. I've got 8, 10.
I've got
and
8, 10, and
11.
11 is what
Okay.
I've got.
Then I'll,
Go with that?
yeah.
Okay.
Having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, Gary Israel, move that we recommend to the governing body the case number Z-SU 23-0001 be approved based on the findings of the Planning Commissions on findings 8, 10, and 11 as recorded in the summary of this hearing.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second to that?
I second David Bowen.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This case will be forwarded to the governing body with the Planning Commission's recommendation and a written summary of the hearing for consideration at their regular meeting of March 28, 2022. The recording of this hearing will be retained for at least 60 days after the final determination is completed on this case. Protest petitions against the case, but not directed at the commission's recommendations as such, may be received by the city clerk for 14 days after tonight, March 7th, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. If there are properly signed protest petitions with accurate legal descriptions from the owners of record of 20% or more of the total real property owners within the official area of notification, both inside and outside of the city, and not counting public street rights-of-way or specific statutorily excluded property, then such a change shall not be passed except by a 3/4 vote of all members of the city council. Thank you. And once again, thank you for
Yeah.
going through the right channels. Thank you.
Mr. Chairperson, I, Gary Israel, make a motion to recess the Planning Commission and convene the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you, Gary, and I will second that one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We will convene the Board of Zoning Appeals with a variance case at 800 South Ruth Avenue. Let me get to my checklist and
Thank you.
Thanks.
I now call agenda item 5.2, which is a public hearing on case number BZA-V23-0001. We would like to welcome everyone interested in this hearing and lay out a few ground rules. It is important that you present any facts or views that you have as evidence at this hearing so that findings can be made for the decision of this board. In order to grant a variance, 5 specific written findings of fact must all be met according to the state statutes and the city zoning regulations. This board is authorized by state statutes to make a decision appealable only to district court and not to the governing body. After our zoning administrator provides us with some information, I will call upon the applicant and then we will hear from other interested parties. Once all have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for final comments. The board will close the hearing to further public comments and will then consider their decision, during which time they may direct questions to the applicant, the public, or the staff. You should be aware that the board can require such conditions to be attached to the premises benefited by the variance as may be necessary to comply with the standards set out in Article 11.106. These are to reduce any potentially injurious effect of such a variance upon other property in the neighborhood and to carry out the general purpose and intent of these regulations. Failure to comply with any of the conditions attached to a zoning permit for a variance shall constitute a violation of the regulations. You should also be fully aware that if the applicant chooses to describe various features of their development plans The city can only enforce those provisions which are covered in zoning and other city codes. Anyone wishing to speak must be recognized by the chairperson and give their name and address. Please use the podium and speak clearly so that your comments can be recorded for inclusion into our minutes. Before we proceed with the hearing, I'll ask the commission members if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they or a relative own property in the area of notification or have conflicts of interest.
No.
No.
Hearing none, we'll move to notification. Official notice for this hearing is published on the City of Andover municipal website on January 28, 2023. And notices were mailed to the applicant and 6 real property owners of record in the area of notification on January 30th, 2023. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Although we do not encourage such communications, I will ask the board if any of them have received any ex parte verbal or written communications prior to this hearing, which they would like to share.
None.
Hearing none, we'll call on the city zoning administrator to provide us with a report on this case.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant in this case has applied for what's much more typical for you all to hear in the BZA setting, a larger accessory structure. In this particular case, the lot area is a little over an acre. And the applicant has an existing building that he intends to tear down and replace it with a little bit larger structure. As Justin noted in the report, there are several larger accessory structures in the immediate vicinity of this property. This is a older neighborhood that was annexed into the city, I'm going to say back in the 1980s, perhaps. So you can imagine that it has a little bit more of a rural character on larger lots with gravel streets and some larger outbuildings.
Thank you. Thanks, Les. Any questions for Les before we move? All right. I'll call upon the applicant to make his or her presentation, make his presentation on the request and any response to what Les said. So name and address, please.
My name is Matt Kraft, 241 South Grandmere Court in Wichita. I'm representing my mother-in-law, Connie Turner, who owns 800 South Ruth property. I'm her son-in-law, trustee, and kind of a property manager. And just a little background, a couple of years ago, we did a 100% remod of her house. So, over the course of the last couple of years, I've been updating it and cleaning up the property and that building in the middle picture, that 20 by 30 is now gone. Bobcat and a chainsaw and 2 dumpsters, and I got it out of there. So the intent is understanding it's got to come 10 foot off the south property line. I've provisioned for that. I've cut the tree down. I've got there's a entrance there, a culvert on the south side that allows me to access back there and to put that 30 by 40 structure there.
So it'll go on the south and then I guess a little bit east.
Yeah, where
I
that
see.
red
Yeah.
square is in the
And there's a
top
real
right-
thick tree line just to the south of it, isn't there?
Yes. And so there was a dead tree just on I guess it'd be the east side of that, or east corner of that old building I took down. I've got that out of the way. So it's just a matter of being able to locate it within the easement requirements. And Justin said that has to be at least 10 foot off the property line, and that's not an issue. So I'm able to do that. And it's just, storage. We got, right now, there's 2-3 vehicles that are sitting out back and that. So again, cleaning up the lot, plus gives me a place to put stuff.
The only question I have is there's a lot of drawings in here and they describe it really well, paint a good picture, but I just would like to hear you kind of describe what you envision it looking like from the outside.
Yeah, so it's two-tone colored. It's a slate wall with wainscot, and so it's got a bronze roof, and so it looks very nice structure, two-colored. It's a stockade building up here at Suburban Buildings doing it. Will be concrete. We'll have a 20-foot apron on the front, so a 20 by 30 on the front, as well as a apron on the back. I think I've got that 10 by 20 foot. And when I did do that house, I extended the concrete drive out to the road too. So, again, keeping the property nice. I've added wrought iron fence out front and just keep cleaning it up and making it better.
No, it looks really nice. I drove by to take a peek so I could
Yeah.
picture it. You did a heck of a job on the house. Looks great. Any other questions?
No, pretty
Oh, Good to
straightforward.
go. All right.
Is this a pole barn then, considered a pole barn?
Yeah, it was asked, is this considered a pole barn?
I believe so. A stockade building would be a pole barn.
It's a wood frame.
It sits on footings apparently? Or the,
The poles go in the ground. right?
Yeah, but on some kind of pylons in there.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I think I know the answer to this, but are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this case? Have any written communications been received, Les?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the board wishes to ask questions to clarify information. The board will now deliberate the request to determine whether the evidence presented supports the conclusions of the required findings of fact. The board will now consider the criteria provided for evaluation.
Get there.
Someone want that?
I can do it.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Does the evidence demonstrate that, number one, the physical surroundings, shape, or topography of the property would result in a practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience for the owner, lessee, or occupant? Staff, the subject property is a 1.1 acre lot. The large parcel provides adequate space while allowing adequate separation from nearby residences.
Concur.
Two, granting the variance would result in material detriment or injury to other property or improvements in the neighborhood. Staff, no detriment and/or property or injury or other property or improvements is anticipated.
Concur.
Three, granting the variance will result in an inadequate supply of light or air to adjacent property, substantially increase traffic congestion, increase risk of fire, or substantially diminish property values in the neighborhood. Staff, subject property is on a 1.1 acre lot. The large parcel provides adequate space while allowing adequate separation from nearby residences. No adverse effects is anticipated.
Concur?
Four, the request for variance is not based exclusively on desire of the owner, lessee, occupant, or applicant to make more money out of the property. Staff, the applicant has declared the intended use to be an accessory garage structure.
Concur?
Specific conditions to be met. One, the requested variance arises from a condition unique to the property in question, which is not ordinarily found in the same zoning district, and which was not created by any action of the property owner or the applicant. Staff, the subject property is a 1.1 acre parcel. The large parcel provides adequate space while allowing adequate separation from nearby residences.
Concur?
Two, strict application of the provisions of these zoning regulations would result in necessary hardship for the owner, lessee, or occupant of the land or structures. Staff, the intent of lot coverage maximum is to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of residents. The subject property is 1.1 acres, which provides a substantial area for accessory structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage of 30%.
Concur?
Concur.
Three, granting the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. Staff, the intent of lot coverage maximum is to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of residents. The subject property is 1.1 acres, which provides a substantial area of accessory structures while remaining below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage of 30% and providing adequate separation from adjacent neighbors.
Concur?
Four, the requested variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare. Staff, the subject property is a 1.1 acre parcel. The large parcel provides adequate space while allowing adequate separation from nearby residences. 5, the requested variance will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of these zoning regulations. Staff, the intent of lot coverage maximum is to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of residents. The proposed accessory structure combined with the existing accessory structures on the subject property remain below the zoning district's maximum allowable lot coverage of 30% and provides adequate separation from adjacent neighbors.
Concur. And thank you for that. So, where's my checklist? There it is. So having heard that, is there a motion to either approve, modify and approve, disapprove, or to table the discussion?
Mr. Chairperson, having considered the evidence at the hearing and determined that the findings of facts have been found to exist that support all 5 conditions set out in subsection 11-106.b2 of the zoning regulations in KSA 12-759E, I, Gary Israel, move that the chairperson be authorized to sign a resolution granting the variance for case number BZA-V23-0001 as requested.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have a second?
Motion.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. A resolution will be prepared and made available to the applicant as soon as reasonably possible, but no later than 45 days from the date of this hearing. If anyone is aggrieved by this decision, a further appeal can be made to the district court to determine its reasonableness within 30 days after the resolution is signed and filed with the zoning administrator. Thanks. Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairperson, I make a motion to adjourn the Board of Zoning Appeals and reconvene the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Gary, and I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have reconvened the Planning Commission to see if there's any member items for the good of the cause before we wrap up.
Les, I think in our last meeting, it was the contractor that tore out all the trees by Cornerstone was discussed a little bit. And what did they say when that happened? I can't recall.
Just some miscommunication
Oh.
with the contractor's personnel.
Oh.
And they're working on a plan to somehow replace that.
It was the ones by
Screen.
the park, basically.
Yes,
Is that right?
in between the new duplex development and the park.
Well, as a guy that lives right off of 159th, they're getting after it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, they are. It's been kind of fun to watch each day with the people on the, what would it be, the west side. What a difference. I mean, that was just a huge tree row, and to watch them cut them down, then to cut them down to ground level, then to grind them up, and been kind of fascinating to watch each day happen.
It made a farm boy cry to see all those straight hedge
Yeah,
trees
yeah.
go off to be destroyed. There's a lot of fence posts there, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, it looks like they're working on setting back the telephone poles and things on the east side, one pole at a time.
Yes, the utility relocations are,
159th between Central, between Central and Kellogg.
I was asking about Cornerstone in a road in 21st Street.
Yes.
But
He's
Eric's
talking
talking about 159th Street by Central, where they're moving the road.
Wes, is that gonna become 3-lane?
yes, it's 3 lanes with a center 2-way left turn.
Well, Mr. Chairperson,
Yeah.
I got 2 items.
Do it.
Les, how's the fire station coming along? I drove by today and it looks like they're making good progress.
Yeah, I think they're making great progress on it. Intend to be in there, I think, late this year.
Okay.
They're there at sunup.
Hmm.
I don't know when they leave, because I work along with them. But I can tell you they're there with the lights on in the morning. It's amazing.
Wow.
A lot of steel work. They don't seem to be having any issues with,
Good.
of course, time will help it.
I don't know who's responsible for it, but they cut down some trees on 13th Street there by Lakeside today. So the vision triangle is better. That,
Yes, the homeowners association there asked the Public Works Department to remove some trees there to clear up that vision
they took
triangle.
out 3 of those trees, which makes it so much easier to see traffic headed west
Right.
on 13th Street. So I appreciate them doing that.
Is the Y still on track for 2024? You have an idea?
And as far as I know, I
I
don't,
thought I'd miss that place. I missed it. My kids,
Yeah, we're playing basketball at the North Y,
yeah,
and they'd normally be at, here
it was,
for the kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel horrible about that whole thing. Never knew I'd miss it so much.
My nephew, I guess they've allowed the Prairie Creek, they're playing basketball in Prairie Creek instead of the Y, which is sure nice and it helps. Like my nephew's 4 and they're playing at Prairie Creek on Saturdays, but still.
They're supposed to have the outdoor swim area done this summer, right? Before this summer.
that's what I had heard.
Yeah.
I know they've had a lot of challenges with the material supply chain for those specialized equipment items.
They were gonna build it back a little fair amount differently than the way it was originally built, right? They're not going back exactly the same as it was.
I don't know the details of
Okay.
exact equipment.
You're
The
supposed to know,
The building is essentially the same.
Okay.
but they're not replacing the climbing tower. They're looking at some other structure.
That's what I had heard. I heard it was underutilized.
I've seen pictures of what they're proposing and it's pretty cool looking. It's a climbing structure for kids and it's actually shaped like a tornado. So it's small at the bottom and bigger at the top. So it looks like a funnel. And they're embracing the fact that the Y was hit by a
Right.
tornado and is surviving. But the structure is really pretty cool. They're like pedals. And the kids climb on the pedals. There's a mesh screen on the outside so they can't fall out
Right.
and stuff. But it can
We're
be
actually
lighted.
designing something similar to that for the 13th Street
That's right.
Sports
The
Park.
13th Street is more like a Christmas tree.
Right, it's more like a tree.
We took the kids, because it was so nice yesterday, we took the kids over there to that park and they rollerbladed on the trail. And that's such a nice big open space there. It's gonna be great when that's built on the corner and the park is fully utilized.
Mhm.
It was such a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So much better than the carnival corner.
Yeah, you are right.
Mr. Chairperson, I'd make a
Alright.
motion to
I'm getting ready for it.
Adjourn us?
Yeah.
All right, that was,
had a brain fart there.
words are tough sometimes.
Adjourn the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals.
And I will second it. All in favor, say aye.
I
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
I got it. Come on now, incline, a little bit.